You're back with us on the Z Morning Show. Let's talk about children's well-being. Today we're going to specifically talk about children that are gifted or they excel. So, for example, being good at math or expert in many languages are among the characteristics of a gifted child. However, well, some might say that being smart in many areas when you're a child is not always fun, because many children often struggle with high expectations, either from the parents or from society or from school, and also this exacerbates the drive to be perfect. As a result, many experience something that is known as gifted kid burnout.
Yes, with high levels of burnout and pressure from parents. Now it's the era of social media, the era of comparison. It is feared that children will become depressed, and worse, it can trigger suicide. We hope not. In ASEAN, a data released by the organization on 100,000 residents show that Singapore ranks first with the highest number of suicide cases, with a case rate of 11.2 people. This is followed by Thailand with a number of cases of 8.8 people, Vietnam with 7.5 people, Malaysia and Laos with more than 5 people, and Indonesia with 2.4 people.
Yes, and to find out more about this psychological condition, gifted kid burnout, and probably also how to avoid it, because as we know, the impact can be quite detrimental. We have clinical psychologist from Personal Growth, Rachel Poniman. Good morning, Rachel. Thanks for coming.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
What is, before we talk about gifted kid burnout, right? What is considered as children who are gifted?
So this is many misconceptions about this. So gifted kids are children who evidently have higher achievement in whether it's intellectual abilities or creative, artistic, or specific academic subjects. And it's not just the parental
Pressure.
parents perceiving their kids as special.
Oh,
but
right.
more of, there's like evidence of maybe they have a higher IQ or specific talent in, let's say, like piano or something.
Yes, yes. So what is gifted kid burnout?
So it's quite literally burnout.
Yes.
So like the state of like mental, physical, emotional exhaustion from exposure to prolonged stress, but on gifted kids because they're special cases.
So what are the symptoms? Okay, this is just regular daily stress a student can experience. And which one is like burned out?
Yes.
I think with burnout, there's a pattern of like avoidance, demotivation, kind of like maybe isolation even with kids, maybe withdrawal, and maybe they're not really interested in like doing homeworks or doing classes because they're just like really burned out, kind of like a candle.
Yeah.
If you just light on a candle and let it be for like hours, eventually it'll, like empty out and burn out.
Yes.
Right? So essentially it's
Right.
that metaphor.
So how did this come about? Because, I mean, let's go back, right? For example, back in the 90s or even the 80s, yes, there were children who were gifted too. And there were children who were excelling too, but I don't think back then we heard much about gifted kids being burned out. What's causing it?
Well, I think it's been here all this time. It's just that we've progressed,
Yeah.
Our generation has progressed also with the use of social media, with the use of data. Now we can see that stress has levels, and the highest level of it is burnout. And it happens, it's common around kids and teenagers, even adults.
Yes.
Honestly, like all ages.
Yeah.
But with gifted kids in specifically, it's special because gifted kids have special pressures, right? Because of their label of gifted, then they're expected a higher demand, from society, from their parents, from family and friends, from school.
When parents give pressure, how do you see that? Children are children. I mean, in my opinion, I'm not a parent yet, but
I mean, that's good. That's a good way of thinking.
I have nephews, right? But I also know and am aware, because my background is education, that kids need to play too. I mean, yes, of course they need to study, but when they don't play, their brain just can't, is stuck, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think of the parents who are like, you're gifted, you're smart, okay, courses, extra classes?
Well, that's a very sensitive topic to some people, right?
Is it?
Yeah, I mean,
Really?
well, I feel like parents with like gifted children,
Yeah.
they can become so ambitious because they know that their kid got potential, right? So they're like, oh, I know you can do more, so you do more, right? And at the same time, it can be on the other side of it where they feel like they're not doing enough for their gifted child, right?
Yeah.
Because they have special demands, right? They, gifted children need special education, maybe extra lessons, more than like regular
Special
children.
schools.
Right. Yeah.
So as a parent, like sometimes we have this kind of point of view. First of all, is my kid gifted or just? Yeah, I don't want to say not gifted.
Yeah, I know, right? That sounds so bad, but I totally get
So bad. So to identify, where should we go to identify? And then secondly, there's this feeling in parents like, have I done enough for my kids, to my kids? We're afraid that we're wasting their talents. We're not make it to the highest potential, to the full potential. So this fears, what to do first, like to know, to identify gifted or not gifted, or it's just my own ambition.
So I would suggest for the children, for the parents to go to a psychologist and get assessments to see, their intelligent capabilities, with the IQs. There are many other assessments that can help see their talents as well. And definitely just like trying out activities, many different activities, and see where the kid excel at. The second part, what you said, I think, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
So I feel there are fears within among parents that we have not done enough to the kids or for the kids.
Okay.
I mean, how do you balance that feeling like, oh, we don't want to overdo it with our kids, but also at the same time,
Yeah, we're not wasting.
we're not wasting,
the
we're not-
talents.
Yes, like the potential.
For this, I'm gonna go back to what you said earlier. Like, kids are kids. Sometimes we parents and we adults, we teachers, we tend to forget that children, gifted kids especially, they're not immune to failure. They're not immune to mistakes.
Yeah.
And we forget that they're young and what they need is to play and to have fun and to explore. And I mean, when they get older, sure, you can most definitely build mastery in what they're good at, on their strengths, but also look at, we all have limitations. Kids also have limitations. So I think for parents, it's good to ask yourself, like, who is it for?
Yes,
I'm
who is it
sorry.
for? Yeah.
But like, who is it for? Like, all this effort of like, all this ambition, right? You have to do this, do that, do this, do that. Is it for the children or is it for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it takes self-awareness, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
self-reflection.
It takes time to be on your own and think. It's like, oh gosh, my kid is now completely stressed out. Why? Why am I
Yes.
doing this? Why is my kid completely stressed out? I guess it's a difficult balance, isn't it? Because I do believe that parents are like that because it comes from a place of love, actually,
Yes.
right? But it's just that
Agree.
the manifestation is a little bit, it needs a little bit of adjustment so that the kids don't get stressed out. So how do we become parents who can make sure that our kids can reach their full potential, but at the same time they have a balance, like they have good mental well-being as well?
Okay. First of all, I need to remind you and everyone that parents are also learning adults.
Yes, they
Like,
are.
like,
They are.
We are all learning how to teach children, how to properly parent them. Like, I know there's so many parenting books out there, but like, your kids are your kids, right?
Correct.
Can't just be generalized to parenting books. So, have that self-compassion. But I think generally, with gifted kids, two of the most important thing is managing expectations and creating an open communication and a safe environment. Because the first one with managing expectation, the label itself is heavy, right? I mean, when you think about like gifted kids, you immediately think, oh, this is a superhuman. I mean, evidently, this human is superior than the average, right? Like, there's a heaviness to that, and
Yes,
children
yes.
feel that too. They feel a
Oh.
mandatory requirement to do more because they
Yes.
are more.
And they
right?
want to please their parents as well, like naturally,
Yeah.
right? That's why the pressure doubles in a way.
Yeah.
So first is managing expectation. What do you mean by managing expectation from the parent's point of view, right?
Yeah.
Like give us a case, like for example, if this doesn't happen, then you manage your expectation.
So I mean, this relates back to like kids being kids. They're not, even gifted kids are not immune to failure.
Oh, yeah.
So it's more of, knowing your child's strengths and weaknesses, build mastery on a strength-based perspective, what they're good at, then do that more. But also don't forget about like they still have limitations on there, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, don't punish them
Yes.
if they fail or if they don't do well. If they only get a B plus or an A, not an A plus.
Yeah.
Don't say, how come it's just an A, it's not A plus? Mama, Daddy, really?
Now that's more on the second one, right? So creating a safe environment and open communication, because a lot of gifted kids have issues with managing their emotions.
Really?
I mean, they're really good with like their cognition, right? They're very honed in that skill, but not always their emotional regulation skills.
Emotional and communication, maybe.
Is it because of the stress and pressure? That's why they regulate their emotions harder?
Because of the label as well, and maybe other factors
Yeah.
in their lives.
Yeah.
So how can we teach our children to tackle or to handle failure? I think this is an important lesson because like parents nowadays, they love to encourage their children to join competition in so many fields.
Which can be a good
Good,
thing.
yeah, which can be a good thing, but also like from my own experience, like it's just hard both for the children and the parents when we got beaten in the competition.
Is that it?
Yeah.
So both. So the parents,
Because it's,
And also the
it's
kid.
heartbreaking to see your kid cried, right? Sometimes I don't know how to, to
yeah.
handle
I
such
think-
situation.
With that,
Sometimes with gifted kid, like they're not allowed to fail, right? By
Yeah.
the society.
Yeah.
I think with that is, ensuring that the family, the household, the environment at home has a more of growth mindset where it's like if failure happens, that's okay. Instead, what can we learn from those failures? And that is most effective if you mirror it to them. So parents would show it to them, right? So when the parents have failures of their own, they don't necessarily have to hide it all the time from their children. Let's say like they cooked something and it was like really salty. They can be like, oh my God, like mom cooked this food. I'm so sorry. It's
Yeah.
like really salty. But next time I know how much salt I'm gonna put into the food, right? So
So sweet.
embracing it at home, I think is really important that like even mom and dad are not perfect people. So you don't have to be perfect as well.
Yeah, it's normalizing imperfection and also normalizing vulnerability, right? Because oftentimes, because of our ego or because we're shameful, we don't want to admit defeat. And when the parents can actually show that to the kid, it does create that safe space. So it's like, hey, mommy and daddy sometimes fail in doing things like big failures or small failures. It means that it's okay for me to do so as well. And I would like to highlight what you said earlier. It's like the growth mindset, right? Because a lot of people right now, I mean, whether you're Gen Z, Gen Millennial, Gen X, or even baby boomers, maybe baby boomers don't really experience that, but particularly Gen Zs, it's very hard for them to face failures. I don't know, not all Gen Zs.
Gen
of
Alpha,
course.
I think
Even more?
even more.
Oh, Marlene, your challenge as a mama. But that's the
more
thing.
challenging because they are
Yeah.
like digital native.
Yeah.
They show their friend status
Yes.
on WhatsApp, on Instagram.
Yeah. What do you think of social media for kids, for young kids?
I think we can't really compare like Gen Alphas and like Gen Zs to like millennials or like baby boomers because it's totally different things. Because I mean, I hear a lot in my practice, parents complaining about like, oh, why do my kids are more anxious? Why are they more anxious than I was? And I would like tell them that you can't compare it that way because their exposure to stressors is literally like,
Yeah.
hello.
Hello. The phones. The phones.
With them, maybe, you know, they would like actually have to go to school and like see something happen, and then they get exposed to like stress or anxiety, right?
Or comparison among peers. But you know, it's completely different when you see your peers on social media doing so well. I mean, we're only humans. At the end of the day, we're only humans.
I love that.
Exactly, because we have all of these kinds of emotions. We have envy. Envy can be a good thing, right? It can be inspiring. Oh, I want to be like that person.
Yes.
But it can also be detrimental when you start comparing yourself and you start beating yourself up because I'm not good enough. Why am I not achieving this? Why am I not achieving that? And that's experienced a lot by Gen Zs through social media, and that is why I do not have Instagram, Rachel.
I cannot live with that. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's choices, right?
Choices.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you, Rachel.
Wonderful morning.
How do you feel as a parent?
I think I learned a lot today. Like one of them is normalizing vulnerabilities, as you mentioned. We're just human, right?
Yes.
And yeah, I should take my kid to psychologist so I know how to direct his talents.
Yes, oh my God.
Wisely, right?
Yes.
Reduce
And not self-diagnose as parents.
There you go.
You should not self-diagnose. Go to the experts, guys. Anyway, we are set for another commercial break. When we return, we'll bring you the world headlines. Yay!